And as federal investigators uncover even more fraud in Minnesota connected to the billion-dollar welfare scheme there, other states now also facing similar investigation. The new federal audit show the state of Maine has been flagged for millions of dollars in what could be another massive welfare operation.
The same people who are defrauding the Medicaid system came and looted the shooting donations. Somali NGOs came and were given money from the money that was raised for the victims.
A federal audit just dropped and found that Maine improperly charged $46 million in just 1 year, just in 2023, just for autism care. And get this, some of the people allegedly running this Medicaid scams also got money from a mass shooting victim fund. I am not making any of this up. Let's get into it.
We're learning the state of Maine made roughly $45 million in improper Medicaid payments for autism services.
Yeah, that's according to an audit just released as part of a sweeping report from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Office of the Inspector General.
Under federal law, states are required to have agreements with providers to keep records that accurately disclose the extent of services delivered. The audit also found billing issues. In 92% of cases, session notes didn't match the time billed. One child session was recorded from 9 a.m. to 3:15 p.m., but included 15 breaks, 2 lunches, and 3 snack times.
So if you've been following this channel, you already know that we covered Maine's Medicaid mess before. The Gateway Community Services, the Ghost Office in Portland, money that transfers to Somalia. We've been on this for quite a while. But this federal audit that just came out, this changes everything. Because now we're not just talking about one shady nonprofit or a handful of suspicious agencies. We're talking about a systemic failure that rivals Minnesota.
So the Federal Office of Inspector General found that in just 2023, $46 million was improperly charged to the autism program. Investigators found was that there simply wasn't a justification for millions of dollars in charges to the federal government, and now they're looking to claw back as much as $25 million of that funding.
The Federal Office of Inspector General audited Maine's autism program. That's MaineCare Section 28. And they found that in 2023 alone, $46 million were improperly charged. $46 million in one program in 1 year. And federal investigators are looking to claw back $25 million of that money. This money was supposed to go to real families with autistic children who actually need the help. And now they're getting screwed because scammers are clogging up the system with a bunch of fake claims. And the state, they just kept paying. Very obvious to what's going on in Minnesota and Ohio and Washington and everywhere else. Let me show you how obvious this fraud is.
Yeah, so Mustafa Alamedi, as far as I can tell, is a 25-year-old Mainer, and he has billed over $1 million from 2021 to 2024. He was audited, and his error billing rate was about 70%, which means that he couldn't justify or provide documentation for 70% of the billing he submitted, which worked out to like six. Yeah, it's a huge amount of money.
He's 25 years old, and from 2021 to 2024, he billed MaineCare for over $1 million. 70% error rate, 70%. That means he could not provide any paperwork for 70% of what he did. That works out to about $600,000 that he could not justify. Now, for most normal people, if they got caught stealing $600,000, that would be a huge problem. Maybe some consequences, maybe jail time, but not this guy. While he was being audited throughout 2024, he kept sending excuses. Oh, my family has COVID. Oh, we went to the emergency room. Oh, my kid's sick again. I mean, how many times can your kid get sick in one audit cycle? And here's the most insane part. While all this is happening, while he's dodging the audit, the state kept paying him. I repeat, the state kept paying him $400,000 to $500,000 more. They didn't stop the payments until last year in February of 2025. More than a year into the audit. A year. And you know what his business email was? privatehomecare6@gmail.com. Gmail. This man was billing the state of Maine $1 million from a Gmail account. Look, I'm not saying that you can't run a business with Gmail. I mean, I have a Gmail account. But when you're pulling down 7 figures in government contracts and your email looks like a teenage Roblox account, that's a huge red flag there. The man didn't even care how it looked. Now, this part just gets me very, very angry. I mean, I can't believe this actually happened. Now, back in October 2023, Maine experienced its worst mass shooting in history, the Lewiston shooting. 18 people were killed. Families were devastated.
We're learning new information about the victims in this week's mass shooting in Lewiston, Maine. Police said Friday many of the victims were deaf or part of that community.
A cornhole tournament was being held at one of the locations at the time of the shooting. Meanwhile, authorities are still searching. Police in Maine say he allegedly opened fire on a bowling alley and a restaurant in Lewiston Wednesday night.
The community was traumatized, but they came together. They did what people do in a tragedy. They donated. About $6.9 million was raised for victims and their families through the Maine Community Foundation. The original plan was simple and clear. 100% of that money goes to the survivors and the victims' families. Period. But then something happened.
The same people who are defrauding the Medicaid system came and looted the shooting donations. Somali NGOs came and were given money from the money that was raised for the victims. You've raised, I think it was like $6.9 million. At some point, because there was so much money being raised through these different funds, there was a decision made to centralize everything with the Maine Community Foundation, where that 100% of the money that was given going to go to the survivors and the victims' families. At some point, there was this splintering where they conceived of this idea of a broad area recovery, is what they called it. 1.9 million was set aside for these NGOs, many of them run by, Somali community leaders. So this is blood-drenched money raised in the aftermath of Maine's worst mass murder, saw it as an opportunity to steer money into their NGOs, their own NGOs.
So somehow this idea got split off somewhere where they conceived this idea called broad area recovery, and $1.9 million got set aside for NGOs. Many of them ran by the Somali community leaders. So let me say that again. This is blood-drenched money raised in the aftermath of Maine's worst mass murder. And some of these same organizations are now under investigation for Medicaid fraud, saw this as an opportunity to steer money into their own NGOs. Gateway Community Services of Maine, the nonprofit connected to the LLC we've been talking about before, received funding from this mass shooting fund. The same Gateway that has been audited 3 times and found that it overbilled MaineCare by more than $1.7 million. So not only taxpayer dollars are being stolen through the Medicaid fraud, but even the charity money meant for shooting victims got mixed into this ecosystem of fraud. This is extremely predatory stuff. It's so disgusting. Now we could talk about how the state of Maine handles these audits, because this is where the system just completely breaks down, or this is on purpose. I don't know. Gateway Community Services got their first notice of violation back in March 2022. That audit covered 2017 and 2018. They found that $900,400 in overpayments, later revised to $776,000. The reasons? Well, the paperwork didn't match. The documentation for services didn't have the matching start or stop times. No signature dates, basic stuff you expect from any legitimate business. But here's the thing. Even after getting caught, Gateway kept billing MaineCare. From 2019 to 2024, they received $28.8 million in payments, including a $4.1 million in their final year, while their CEO was literally running for office in Somalia.
He's running for an office in a foreign state and is doing Somali language media interviews in which he's bragging about personally bankrolling a paramilitary organization that he is going to use to depose the sitting president, Madobe, in Jubaland.
First reported by the Maine Wire back in March, Abdullahi Ali posted to his own presidential media page this interview. We had it translated. Here's what he said.
When I was away and abroad, the financial contributions I was sending back were being used to support the forces for buying bullets, ammunition, and food.
Last week, Abdullahi Ali posted this on X. I make no apologies for building a successful business in Maine, working hard to earn a living, earning my PhD, giving back to my Maine community, and running for office in Jubaland.
The state didn't suspend Gateway's payments until December 2024, after 3 audits spanning nearly a decade, after a whistleblower went public, after national media picked up on the story, after the House Oversight Committee started asking questions. Do you see this pattern? Audits takes 2 years, appeals take another year. Meanwhile, the money kept flowing, and you can't provide any paperwork, any documentation. Nothing happens. No criminal charges, no arrests. You just close up shop and then open a new LLC under a different name. You can see all of this money being taken away, alleged by fraud. Millions of dollars. This is absolutely insane. And this is just what they caught right now. The Maine Wire estimates hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud across the state. Hundreds of millions. Now, when it comes to the Maine's Healthcare Crimes Unit, the people responsible for investigating Medicaid fraud made only 7 fraud referrals in 2024. Only 7. In a state where auditors are finding $1 million scams left and right, between 2020 and 2024, they averaged 46 investigations per year. That is one of the lowest in the entire country. Maine spends $1.2 million a year investigating fraud in a $5.4 billion Medicaid program. Maybe they need to do more. So when you do the math, that's about 0.2% of the budget going towards oversight. It doesn't seem like they really care about investigating fraud. Every dollar stolen is a dollar that doesn't help someone who actually needs it. Real families with autistic children who need therapy can't get appointments because the system is clogged with fake providers. Real home healthcare patients aren't getting visits because agencies are billing for ghost shifts. Real shooting victims got less money because their charity fund got raided by fraudsters, by scammers. And unfortunately for the honest Somali immigrants, the people who came here legally, worked hard, paid taxes, contributed to their communities, now have to live under a cloud of suspicion because scammers are using their community as cover. This isn't about immigration. This isn't about one ethnic group. This is about a system so broken, so easily exploited that it became an open invitation for organized fraud. Now, Governor Janet Mills has been completely silent on this. We've covered how her sister Dora was an exec at Maine Health. Now we're finding out while Mills was publicly fighting Trump over transgender policies, her administration can't even stop basic Medicaid fraud. That's why Republican lawmakers are now calling for federal investigations. They're saying what we've been saying for the longest time.
The federal government doesn't like it when they send their money and it gets stolen.
Maine state Republicans say they're fed up with how Democrats are reacting to allegations of fraud in the state, including Gateway Community Services, which recently lost its state funding after audits determined it overbilled MaineCare, the state's Medicaid program. Republicans now calling for an investigation from the federal level. The calls for a federal investigation come after at least 3 cases of alleged fraud in Lewiston over the last month. One involved billing issues through MaineCare. Another involved alleged tax fraud.
That we're going to cooperate with them to get to the bottom of this, that we're going to weed out all these fraudsters.
We tried reaching Maine Democratic leaders today, including House Speaker Ryan Fecteau and Senate President Matty Daughtry. Both weren't available for interviews.
Now, Democratic leadership, they're hiding behind statements like, well, this needs due process and evidence-based investigations. Obviously, no one wants to skip due process. But when a federal audit finds $46 million in improper charges, and you got whistleblowers getting fired for reporting fraud in the first place, and then you got a CEO bragging on foreign TV about funding militias, maybe, just maybe, there's enough evidence to start asking some really hard questions. What needs to happen now is full independent federal investigations, not state level where everyone is just connected. House Oversight is already looking into this, and they may need to go deep. Also, every MaineCare home health care and autism provider needs to be audited, not random samples, all of them. If you can't provide documentation for services you build, you pay it back immediately with penalties. Also, they need real whistleblower protections. There's a lot of people that try to report this fraud and got fired. Also, they need transparency on that mass shooting fund. The public deserves to know exactly which donations received money from that $1.9 million broad area recovery pool and what they did with it. Those donors thought they were helping shooting victims, not funding NGOs under federal investigation. Also, they need to have people going to jail. They need criminal charges, not just civil penalties, not just taking back the money, actual criminal prosecution. Because right now, the worst case scenario is that you might have to pay this back in a few years. That's not really a deterrent. That's just a business model. And finally, Maine needs to increase its fraud investigation budget. You can't oversee a $5.4 billion program with just $1 million. You need to spend more money. But look, we're going to continue to follow this story. The federal investigations are ongoing. More audits are coming. Whistleblowers are still coming forward. And every time we find new information, we're going to share it right here. But let me know what you guys think about this story in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video.